Welcome to another episode of the Journey Podcast. The Journey Podcast is all about sharing the journeys of purpose-driven individuals from all walks of life who are following their passion and fulfilling the purpose in their own unique way. And I'm your host, Risa Kawamoto. In today's episode, I'm having a conversation with Sayeeda Alam, a yoga teacher and Ayurvedic lifestyle advisor. I met Sayeeda on an Ayurvedic lifestyle advisor training course last year. We got chatting during lunch and I was really inspired by her journey. And I knew straight away that she would be an amazing guest for my podcast. So I'm super excited to share this episode with you. Sayeeda's bio says that Sayeeda embodies dedication as a yoga student, teacher, and Ayurvedic lifestyle advisor. And her passion lies in fostering holistic well-being and spiritual balance. Having navigated cycles of addictive behaviour, depression, anxiety, and chronic illness for much of her life, discovering yoga and Ayurveda became the foundation of her ability to find inner peace and physical healing. Motivated by her personal transformation journey, she embarked on the path of becoming a yoga teacher and Ayurvedic lifestyle advisor, driven by a deep desire to guide others on their unique path toward personal and spiritual growth. Her teaching style seamlessly blends ancient yogic wisdom with contemporary insights, guiding students to explore their bodies and mind through posture, pranayama, philosophy, and meditation. In this episode, she shares her struggles to fit in as a child, her love for music, and traveling after university, and her addiction and diagnosis of ME, and finally discovering yoga and Ayurveda. Her story is truly inspiring, and I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hi Sayeeda, lovely to have you today. Welcome to the Journey Podcast. I'm so excited to have you. I know we've been talking about it for a while and we had to reschedule a few times, so I'm really excited to have you and have a chat with you today. Just before we kick off, just wanted to ask you how you're feeling today and also where you are joining from.
Cool. Well, thank you for having me. I'm really glad that we're finally here after however long it's been. I'm feeling very well today, thank you. It's been quite a busy day already, but I'm really glad to be talking with you. And I am in Weston-super-Mare, which is in the southwest of England.
Amazing. And what's the weather like there at the moment?
It's quite nice at the moment. I can see blue skies from my windows. So yeah, happy days right now.
Lovely. It's the weather's been really mixed today in London where I live. But I think it's quite sunny at the moment. So it's nice to hear that you can see blue sky where you are as well. So firstly, I would love for you to share a little bit about kind of your background and anything you like to share about growing up and your kind of early years. That would be amazing.
Sure. So I grew up in Weston, where I am now. My father is actually Indian. My mother is English. So growing up was challenging, mainly because of that. You know, that brought a lot of challenges. But as a kid, I think I was a bit of a loner, I think. I struggled to fit in to groups. I was very interested in music. That's one thing. That was something that I did a lot of. But yeah, my background is just Weston-super-Mare, really, just navigating life as a child and figuring out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I did go to university and I studied music technology. And then after that, I traveled a lot throughout my 20s. So I went all over the world to a lot of Southeast Asian countries, and I lived in Thailand for a short while and just roamed the globe, finding myself, I guess you could say. And that was then what led me back to Weston-super-Mare. I think I realized that I was kind of running from myself a little bit, and that you take your problems with you. So once I started to realize that I needed to do more internal work on myself, I came back to Western and then trained as a yoga teacher. And now I run my yoga business.
Wow. Wow, that's a really great journey. But I'm going to kind of go back to your childhood. I love to hear like a bit more details throughout the journey that you just shared. I know you mentioned it was quite challenging and you struggled to fit in. What sort of challenges and how kind of did that impact you as you were growing up into like teenage and like 20s?
Sure. Well, I think I kind of struggled with identity a bit and finding a sense of belonging. Being mixed race is quite tricky, and especially in the town at the time. I think in my primary school, me and my sister were the only people who weren't white. So, it was hard to navigate because we were seen as very different to everybody else. And the same in my secondary school as well. So finding my place, respective of both cultures, was very difficult. Yeah, it was just really tricky because I'd hear things obviously from my dad and his side, and then my friends who were English, and it was just, yeah, how do we integrate those two things together? Very, very tricky.
Mm. And did your sister kind of experience similar to what you experienced as well?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and we experienced some nastiness and all that kind of stuff as well. But even from the other side, which is interesting, I was my dad's Muslim, so I was brought up as a Muslim, and I was learning how to read Arabic and the Quran, and we went to a school, but at that time as well, we didn't fit in there because we weren't seen as proper Muslims because we were half white. So yeah, it was, where do we go? What do we do? That sense of belonging just didn't really exist. So yeah, I think that impacted me quite a lot, made me feel like an outsider. So yeah, it was very, very tough growing up indeed because of that.
Yeah. And were you able to speak to your parents about it or anyone else you could have a chat about it?
Probably not. I mean, it wasn't really something that at the time I saw as an issue or something that I could voice. I think you don't realize the extent of it until you become older and you're like, oh, okay, that happened. People just say things to you, but when you're a kid, right? So I don't think you have the context very much when you're that age. So yeah, I didn't really speak. I couldn't really talk to my parents much anyway. So I didn't have a very strong relationship with them. So that probably made things even tougher. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And did you have any role models? It doesn't need to be someone closer to you, but like I don't know, outside, uh, online, and anyone you used to look up to?
I think I used to look up to musicians probably the most. So I obviously liked, the pop groups, Take That, Spice Girls back in the day. But I was quite fond of Michael Jackson. He was a big influence musically for sure in my life. But role model wise, there wasn't really anybody that I kind of looked up to and thought I wanted to be like you. Yeah, just no.
Yeah, just hearing like Spice Girls and Take That. Yeah, that's kind of my growing up as well. So yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, you mentioned music. I love to know like what sort of music. You said pop. Do you play any instruments or do you like
Sure.
singing?
So I started the piano as an 8-year-old girl, and then I quickly gave that up. That's the one regret I have in my life was giving the piano up. Yeah. But then I played the violin until I was 18, and I sang in choirs and did all that sort of stuff. And then when I went to university, then my goal was to be a musician. So I wanted to write music mainly, and I wanted to have my own record label, and I was more into the house music scene and the party scene, all of that stuff. And I had a small taste of it in Thailand. I did a bit of DJing in the clubs on a small island there.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and then I taught myself guitar a couple of years ago as well. So music's still quite a big part of my life. So yeah.
I'm just curious because I used to play piano as a child growing up as well. I don't play much at all these days, but I also like bought myself a guitar quite a while ago now. I'm trying to teach myself. How do you find learning guitar, being an adult? And
Sure.
I know you got a bit of music background, but yeah, learning new instrument, how you finding it? I'm just curious to hear your
I
thoughts.
tried to learn about 10 years ago beforehand, but the guitar that I bought was pretty rubbish. So it made it really hard to learn.
Blame on the guitar.
It was when
No,
I
no,
was
I'm
playing
kidding.
with tools, right? So, but no, it made a huge difference. The strings were really fat, and it just sounded very bad. So it wasn't easy to play it. So I invested in a decent guitar a couple of years ago, and I picked it up very, very quickly. So yeah, I don't know. For me, I learned quick, so it was quite a smooth transition. I think within about 6 months, I was able to sing and play at the same time, but I was doing it a lot. So I was just in between my work and taking breaks, I'd just be playing, playing, playing. So yeah.
Oh, amazing. I would love to hear you play guitar and sing at some
For a
point
while,
in the
and
future.
I'm just in my bedroom, like I get stage fright.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I'm just, yeah, I love to be able to play guitar. Like I can, I can play piano, but yeah, I'm sure you practice a lot to get to where you are. And yeah, that's what I need to do, I guess.
Yeah.
Thank you. So kind of you mentioned earlier that you went to university and study music technology, is that right?
Yes, correct.
How was your university life like?
My university life was fueled with parties and crazy times, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a very nice time in my life. You've just got that right amount of responsibility, I think. You kind of just fresh out of home, you living alone for the first time with friends, so it's a really surreal experience. And yeah, and I loved my course. I absolutely loved it. And I knew I wouldn't have been able to apply myself to anything else apart from music at the time. So, I'm really glad that I went and did it. Of course, the degree is kind of like a bit worthless to me now, but I gained some valuable skills from it, time management and how to research and, things like that, which actually come into my business now. So yeah, I'm really grateful for the experience. Yeah.
And I know a lot of yoga teachers kind of incorporate music in their kind of teaching yoga, and there's back to yoga where you play instruments and chant. So yeah, it kind of flows and kind of connects with what you do. I feel like the music and yoga. Um, and so you had a bit of a yeah, you sound like you had a lot of fun during the university time. And what did you do after graduating? I know you said you went traveling. Yeah, what was it like?
Well, I couldn't wait to get out of the country really. So I think I graduated on the Monday. The Tuesday I left Huddersfield and came back down to Weston. The Wednesday I sold my car. The Thursday I had a party to say goodbye to my friends, and on the Friday I flew to Australia. So I was
Wow.
on. Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, I went traveling in Australia for about a year, and then I came back to England for a couple of years, and then back out again. And I went and became a dive master. So I was working on the dive boats in Thailand and just showing people around the dive spots and looking at the fish, which was fantastic. Being in the water every day and in the natural habitat of the fish is just amazing. Yeah, it's really good for you.
Sounds amazing. Was that a solo traveling to Australia, or did you go
Yeah,
with your friends?
kind of,
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah, I did this thing called Oz Intro. So you go out there, you can go alone or you can go with friends, but you meet a group of people for the first week, and then
Mhm.
you do some trips together, and then you can travel on with them afterwards if you want to. But yeah, I flew out on my own, so yeah.
And I know you said you couldn't get out of country, but was that scary or was that exciting? What sort of emotions did you kind of experience
I
when you
was
were
like
going for
excited. I couldn't wait. I was just literally wait, bye.
it?
In the airport. See you later. Like, I just couldn't wait to go. I felt very free, and yeah, I was just so excited to start my adventure. Yeah.
Wow. And is there anything like during that a year trip in Australia, like any highlights you like to share?
Mm. Yeah, I spent two, 3, 4, I don't even know how long, maybe a month on this island up north called Magnetic Island. It's just off the coast of Townsville. And it was my first island experience. Like, oh, I just fell in love with the place. Every night, the stars were just incredible, and you'd see shooting stars every night. And obviously the weather's really warm, and I ended up falling in love on the island, and it was a whole thing, and it was just a really magical time. Yeah, it was fantastic. Such a great place is Australia.
Yes, yeah. I think traveling is the best way to discover like yourself as well and learning different culture. And then so after Australia, did you say you went to Thailand to, yeah.
Yeah, so I traveled around Southeast Asia for
Mhm.
about 3 months, first of all. So I did a standard backpacker route, which is Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore. And then after that 3 months, I went back to the UK for a couple of years. I said I fell in love on that island. Well, I went back to England for him. And I lived in Leeds for a couple of years. And then when that ended, I decided to go back out, and that's when I went to Thailand and did my diving courses, and then worked on the boats, yeah, for about a year, maybe.
Okay. And how from traveling and coming back to UK and then going back out there for more traveling and experience new places. Where did yoga come into your life?
So yoga entered when I was living in Thailand. Um, Another boyfriend of mine, there's been a few over the years. He introduced me to it actually. And when I so before I started yoga, I didn't look after myself very well at all. I was very disconnected from my body. I did zero exercise, zero practices. I ate bad food. I drank a lot of alcohol. I took a lot of drugs. I just didn't look after myself. So when I initially started it or did it the first few times, I couldn't stand it because being in my body was just not a very nice place to be. And of course, that's what yoga does, is it brings you back into, your body and your being. So it was very difficult when I first started. But I think I then, when I came back to England again, I joined the gym, which is down the road. And I started some classes there and kind of really got into it once I started looking after myself. I had a diagnosis in that same year, which prompted me to be like, right, okay, I need to listen now. My body's telling me this is enough, so you need to start taking care, otherwise this is only going to get worse. And yoga was one of the things which I did. So yeah, and then I did a class in Goa about a year later, which was hugely, hugely significant in the rest of my journey to where I am today. So
Thank you so much for sharing that. May I ask what kind of made you want to live the life that is kind of harming yourself, your body?
Yeah, I had a lot of trauma as a child. So, like I said, my upbringing was challenging in a lot of ways. I mentioned about being mixed race; that was a big challenge. My relationship with my parents was not great. There was not much. Our emotional connection was very little. So that was also a struggle. Same with my siblings. I wasn't really connected to them very well. And I had some other significant traumas throughout my teenage years. And the way that I found to cope with that was managing my emotions through drugs and alcohol. So from my early teens, I became an addict, basically. So throughout all of my teenage years and a lot of my 20s, that was the way that I coped with what I was feeling inside. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, I just wanted to ask because I kind of like listening to your story reminds about my kind of childhood and like how
Okay.
I kind of harmed myself like drinking and smoking. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. So you mentioned so the course that you did, was that a yoga teacher training or was that like a retreat in Goa? What?
In Goa, it was just one single class. So
Oh, right. Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
it was
Ah,
quite a crazy experience.
okay.
So I was with a friend and I had found this yoga teacher. His name is Cyril. He's on Instagram. I actually thanked him about 2 years ago for that
Oh, oh, that's very nice of
because
you.
of
Yeah.
where it's taken me, And we went to go speak to him, and he said, right, okay, yeah, you can come and practice, but he's like, you must follow these guidelines. No alcohol the night before. Okay. He's like, don't eat anything before you come. All right. Drink this amount of water before you come. I'm like, okay, like we just had these teeny little things, simple things to follow. And I was like, right, okay, well, if I'm gonna do this, let's do it properly. So I did all these things, and I don't know whether that was why it made such a difference or not. Who knows? But the class was about an hour and a half long, I think. And it was just a standard hatha class. But what happened was for the first time ever, I think, in my life, I connected to my body in such a way where I found compassion for it. And I had never experienced that feeling before in my life. So for me, this was hugely profound and transformational because that just then set up a ripple effect of literally where I am today. Because just feeling that compassion for a split second made me think, oh, what have I been doing to myself? And why have I been treating myself in this way? And that awareness then just snowballed into, oh, this has been the rest of my life. What can I do to change this? Because I don't want to live like this anymore,
Mm,
in a nutshell. So yeah,
yeah.
yeah, huge, massive, massive.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always so amazing to hear like how one yoga class can change the trajectory of someone's life and
Yeah.
the future. So you took this class in Goa. What did you do next? So you had this amazing experience and you realized that you need to look after yourself better. What did you do next?
Well, next, I think I just continued. I continued practicing quite intensely as well. I was doing a good hour and a half of Ashtanga nearly every day. I wasn't really working at the time, so I was just living with my parents and focusing on myself. It was at that time that I then decided to stop drinking, stop taking drugs, stop smoking. I went vegan. I made a lot of very quick changes in my life coupled with the spiritual practices, things just went up pretty quickly. And then, I think because I was so interested in how this practice can be so profound, I started doing some learning as well. So I did just a small diploma about yoga. Just to get some basics. And I think it was only like maybe a year and a half, 2 years into my practice that I then decided to become and do my teacher training because it had changed my life so drastically. I mean, it got me sober. I obviously still have to work being an addict now and being in recovery, but that was the catalyst that gave me my life back. So
Mm, yeah, and how did you find your yoga teacher training, your first yoga teacher training?
yeah, it was good. I'm very happy with what I selected because I know there's a lot of yoga teacher trainings out there these days, and some of them can be done very quickly. And I think some of them might skim over some aspects of the practice, which I think are vital for yoga teachers to be knowing. But mine was great. It was a very well-rounded, structured training that incorporated all the philosophy and the texts and it was a very, very good course, and it was spread over 9 months. So we had a lot of time to integrate what we were learning and practice in between. So yeah, it was a good course.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like I know some I did over 8 weekends. So yeah, it was a quite a short teacher training that but you still have to squeeze in 200 hours within
Yeah.
those short time. So yeah, and yeah, there was not much philosophy
Yeah.
involved. So yeah, sounds like you had selected a really good training, which I feel it's quite rare these days. There are so many training out there, but yeah, not many good ones, I guess.
Well, it's very easy to become a teacher training, to on the accreditation system, it's very easy to just put a proposal through and they're like, yeah, it's enough. And
Mhm.
it's like, okay. But we just scratch the surface with the teacher training. If you're not continuing on your professional development, then we're students first, aren't we? Always students first. So
yeah, agree. So how quickly did you start teaching yoga after the training, and what was the journey like after that?
I was actually already teaching before I qualified. I just couldn't wait, really. I think even before I did my teacher training, and even before I decided that I was going to do it, I was teaching some friends in Bali. I just always had, as soon as I got into yoga, that was just the instinct that I needed to pass it on. And then when I was doing my training, I was teaching a few classes in the community and doing a few one-to-ones. So yeah, just straight off the bat, really. Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's amazing how you were already teaching. So you didn't have a kind of imposter syndrome, or I
Do
know a
now.
lot of people have.
Yeah, I do now. I didn't before. It
Oh.
just came very much naturally to me. It was very organic, but I think once you get into the yoga land space and you become, a business owner, it becomes, yeah, it comes in, There are lots of factors which might make us feel like that. So yeah, sometimes I do get imposter syndrome. And a lot of the time, mainly just because of how much there is to know about this subject. And what do we focus on? Where do we draw our attention to? And what do I choose to pass on? This can sometimes baffle me, So, yeah, sometimes the imposter syndrome is there, but we work with it.
What's your kind of top tips on kind of, yeah, if you could kind of give advice to someone who are going through imposter syndrome, what would be your top tips or advice?
Well, I think if you're a yoga teacher or someone who's passing on any kind of knowledge, teach what you know. So just stick to what you know and be really confident in what you are giving to the other person. That would be number one. And just remembering that you've got something to give, right? And if you are a yoga teacher, then there'll always be a student for you and vice versa. So yeah, and maybe not to be disheartened if you have low numbers in your classes. I don't think that numbers or popularity really reflect who you are as a teacher or a person. So yeah.
Yes, good point. Would love to kind of get a bit more into that bit, like low number of students, or the popularity, because these days when you see on Instagram, there's so many yoga teachers on Instagram who's got like millions of followers, very popular. How do you compare with those yoga teachers on Instagram, and how do you kind of get back to your kind of own authentic kind of true self, and remind yourself that you are you.
Yeah. I do on occasion yeah, sometimes I compare and I know it's something which I need to work on. I actually in the past I've particularly in my area, I've stopped following a lot of my local teachers because I found it a bit triggering for me. It brought up the self-worth issues and the imposter syndrome and stuff. So yeah, I've stopped following teachers in my town, especially ones that don't resonate with me. There's a lot of yoga teachers in my town as well. I don't know. I guess it's just something. It's another thing, isn't it, that we have to work on. It's finding that compassion, right, of being okay with where we're at, finding that acceptance for where we are in our journey, because our journey is different to everybody else's, and what it looks like, what it entails, how many people are around you. So it's just finding that radical acceptance, I think, is key.
And that's what yoga teaches us as well, I guess. That's
Yeah.
everything what yoga, is all about, self-compassion, acceptance. So I mean, this is my experience, but being a yoga teacher, I do find kind of yoga industry quite overwhelming these days. And there are a lot of kind of that competitiveness as well, kind of linking to comparing with other yoga teachers who might look really popular online. What would you say to that? Do you have anything that that kind of you experience in terms of, because we were just chatting before we recorded this podcast. I was asking you about like, oh, how you built your yoga business, and you mentioned about networking. And I'm an introvert, so I find networking quite overwhelming and challenging. And I do find quite a lot of yoga teachers, even like in my yoga teacher training, there were that competitiveness within the kind of trainees already. So I just wonder if you've experienced that before, or do you experience that at all?
Yeah, do you know, I think I might do. I hold my hands up, and sometimes it comes from myself.
Mm.
You know, I recognize that I might, that comparison again, isn't it? You know, it's like, well, you're there doing this, I'm doing this, but it might not look as successful as what you're doing. Why is that, etc.? And then I'm like, well, and I get a little bit competitive in my own skin. I don't necessarily think I see it from other people. Generally, in the community, people are quite helpful, and you know, I meet with other yoga teachers, and we give each other tips. And some people have really helped me. Like one teacher helped me a lot when I was planning my first yoga retreat. So, you know, I don't really think there is competitiveness. If it is, then it's under the surface, and you might be able to see it in somebody's eyes, but it's not outwardly expressed, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I mean, we're all trying to make a living here. This is the thing. So a lot of the teachers in my town, this is their full-time job, myself included. So this is, you know, what keeps our houses going and our food on the table. So there is an element of it, I think, because it's become our livelihoods, you know.
Yeah, I guess small businesses trying to do something that they're passionate about and trying to make a living. I kind of hear what you're saying about like it might be kind of within yourself, that competitiveness. And I am like competitive person anyway. I
So am
hate
I.
losing. I really hated losing when I was growing up, and very pizza, I guess, if you talk about Ayurveda dosha. I would love to know, like, is there any specific kind of, I don't want to say style of yoga, but is there any, I know you mentioned Ashtanga, I know you do yoga nidra, I think you do hatha yoga as well. Is there any kind of specific yoga that you offer, or like kind of your unique um like specialism focus?
So my Monday class, which I run, and I incorporate this into a few others throughout the week, I focus on a lot of yoga for nervous system regulation. I did some training based on yoga for addiction theory. So it was all based on the trauma response in the body, how that works physiologically, and how yoga can help kind of combat those issues. I say issues, but you know, those responses within the body and the nervous system to kind of support ourselves through trauma and addiction and stress and anxiety. And whilst, you know, it was aimed at addiction, these tools are helpful for everybody, because we all have a nervous system, we all have a vagus nerve, and we all act and respond in the same way. That's just the body's primal instinct, you know. So yeah, I gear a lot towards that, and mainly just pulling back. A lot of my classes are about being in the moment, connecting to the body, the breath, the mind, the self in any way that you can without extreme force. You know, I don't want people to come to my classes and feel like they have to do, because there's so much of that out there. I'd rather people come and just relax and find space to breathe, you know, instead of always being goal orientated or like that. So
Yeah, I love your approach. Yeah, we do too much, you know, during the day, and yeah, it's not great if you have to do more when you go to yoga class. So yeah, I love that, coming back to your kind of own body and being the present, to be with yourself. I guess having that, even it's like an hour class, you got that an hour a day to come back to your kind of yourself. So that sounds great. And yeah, I love that approach. You mentioned, I asked earlier, like around role models or someone you look up to when you were growing up. Do you have anyone now that you kind of work with, like as a mentor, or where like someone you kind of seek support and guidance?
Well, there's one person which is coming to my mind right now, but that's because I'm going to be starting a course with her. And she was who I did my teacher training with. So Laura Gilmore is her name. She's Bristol based. So yeah, I guess perhaps her at the moment. It might change for me, you know. There might be a point in my life where I resonate with somebody and then it will go back out again, depending on where I am and what I need, you know. But yeah, that's the first person that comes to my head right now. But that might just be me trying to think of somebody.
No, that's okay. That's okay. No, I was just curious to see like if you have any teacher or mentor that you work with.
But no, I don't have a specific one close.
Okay.
No.
Okay. That's great. Yeah, I was just curious to find out, and I ask kind of similar question to all my guests. So I would love to kind of know like what do you enjoy most about what you do, and what are the challenges?
So what I enjoy most about what I do, two things come to mind. I absolutely get so enthusiastic when my students get enthusiastic about yoga. So the spaces after class where I have interactions and conversations about the deeper aspects of yoga. So all of the things we read in the text and the nature of reality and the mind and all this stuff. And when I can see someone's face lighting up about this subject, then yeah, that gets me very, very excited. So that's one thing. And also when students tell me about the transformations that are happening in their lives through the practice. That's the other thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that's best. Yeah, best kind of feedback, I guess.
Yeah,
You can get.
his job, right? Like,
Agree. Oh, that's great. Yeah. And what do you think are the challenges in your business?
well, for me, actually, the biggest challenge that I've had is as soon as I started my business, I then got very ill. So I've actually been living with ME, CFS for the past 5 years, right at the point where I started my business. So it's been very challenging to navigate my health whilst trying to maintain teaching classes and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, things are getting better now, so I'm able to do more, which is good. So I can start putting myself out a little bit more into the community and taking on more projects, which is great. So that hopefully will be an upward motion for the future of how things are going to continue. But yeah, just navigating time management and having the energy to do things when I want to do them and letting that go, right? Because you see that pressure we put on ourselves to want things to be a certain way and attaching ourselves to wanting to be able to do stuff, we've got to just accept where we are again. It's that lesson.
Yeah, no, yeah, completely agree. Do you have, I know you've kind of mentioned a little bit already, but do you have any advice for anyone who kind of experiencing similar kind of situation to what you are experiencing? So having no energy, but you want to be doing something, but you have no energy to do it sometimes, and how do you navigate that?
Gosh, yeah, it's a lot to unpack in that question. Probably there is no one size fits all, like Ayurveda says, right? So you have to know yourself, I think, and be gentle, be very, very gentle and kind with yourself if you're going through anything like that, because any resistance or any negative feeling that you have toward yourself about your situation is only going to make things worse. But it's a process. It's very, very difficult to do. So yeah, just patience and going easy with yourself, you know, and asking for help. Asking for help if you need it. Asking for support.
Yes, yeah, that's a great advice, and thank you so much for sharing that. And yeah, asking for help. Do you find that easy for you? I know people kind of experience differently when it comes to like asking for help, and especially as a woman as well, I feel. Do you find it easy to ask support?
I think I do find it easy, but upon reflection, when I look back, maybe it's just because the people that I've asked were unable to give it to me, because I have got some help, but not a lot. So it makes me think, maybe I'm not asking in the right way, therefore maybe I'm not, very good at asking for help. But yeah, generally I'm kind of like, yeah, I need it, so help me. So it's different situations. I think I'm definitely getting much better at it, and knowing that I do have a support system around me now is obviously beneficial, because it makes it easier. I know those are people that I can depend on, so I can keep going back to them, so.
Yeah, it's good to have that support system around you, and yeah, sounds like you kind of have that now, and you're kind of getting better at navigating through your energy as well, and taking on new projects. So love to hear more about the new projects, or any new things that you kind of want to do. I know one thing is Ayurveda, because you mentioned that. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So the Ayurveda. So recently, this is of how we met. We did our course together. So now qualified as an Ayurvedic lifestyle advisor. So this is now an add-on to the yoga classes that I teach. So providing consultations and lifestyle advice to help people better manage their health. And I do packages as well for yoga and Ayurveda combined, because what a lot of people might not know is that yoga is also kind of specific to doshas and imbalances, and some practices might not be good for us, but we just don't have the awareness. So just tying those things together, because they were traditionally intertwined. So it's quite fun, doing it that. So the Ayurveda is one thing. I'm running my first retreat in April, which is very exciting. So that's happening. It's a 3-day long retreat in Devon. And I'm also working closely with a friend called Rachel. Her business is called Zendevers. So she's a yoga teacher, sound provider. She does breath work, cold therapy, all of this stuff. So we're doing sound bath and yoga nidras and sound bath and yoga events. And we hope to do some more work together in the future over the next couple of years, retreat days and things like that. So yeah.
That's so exciting, and really excited for your first retreat as well.
Thanks.
Oh, amazing. Well, I hope that goes well, and yeah, really excited for you. When is it?
It's on the 5th of April.
5th of April. Okay. Amazing. Well, I will link to, or like to your website and all the information details about the retreat and thing in the show notes, and also the sound bath and the yoga nidra sounds amazing as well. I did see that on your Instagram recently, I'm sure, because I was like, oh, that sounds amazing. So excited for you with all these new initiatives, new projects. So I could talk with you forever, but I have final couple of questions that I like to ask you. So what's the best advice you have ever received?
Goodness me. So something comes to mind. It's probably not the best advice I've received, but it's advice which I need to take and incorporate more into my life, and that is to let go. Just to let things go, because I can hold on to some things for a little too long, I think. So yeah, letting go.
Yeah, that's a good advice. I need to do that myself as well. I feel like we are quite similar.
Non-attachment, right? It's all in the teachings, isn't it?
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And what advice would you give to those who are trying to follow their passion but feeling challenged to do so?
I think you gotta move into it. You just have to go into it. Don't worry about where you start. Just keep moving forward, because otherwise you're not going to go anywhere. You just have to learn as you go, take a chance, learn how to take risks, I think, you know, because you're always going to learn. If it's not successful the first time around, you're going to learn from it, and then you just try again, try again, try again.
Great advice. And yeah, that's something that I kind of do with myself. Keep trying, even if it's not working, then try something else, and if that's not working, try something else, take risks. Yes. I think that's kind of the nature of like entrepreneurs and business owners. Keep going and always try try out new things. If that doesn't work, try another thing. So yeah, I love that advice.
I think the key is seeing it as a process. So instead of seeing it as like point A to point B, there's going to be lots of things that happen, and really the end goal might even change, and be okay with that.
Yeah, I love that. I haven't quite thought about like the process bit. So yeah, I love how you explained that. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much, Sayeeda, for this amazing conversation, and it was so much fun. So if people want to get in touch with you, where can people find you?
So website is sayeedayoga.co.uk. I'm sure you'll link below the spelling. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. I also have an insight timer where you can practice my nidras. I'm on TikTok, but I don't really use it that much. So yeah, the usual social media channels, and the website is the best place. So
okay, amazing. I didn't know you had a YouTube channel actually, so I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, not that much on there, but you know, check it out. Yeah.
I would love to invite you again at some point in future to talk about kind of more yoga and Ayurveda, and also like all your new projects that's coming up. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be speaking again very soon. But thank you, and take care. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed listening to my conversation with Sayeeda as much as I did. It was really inspiring to hear her journey, and really motivated for me to keep sharing my passion and ancient wisdom of yoga and Ayurveda. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and leave a review so we can reach as many people as possible. I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.